All right, here we go. It's a Saturday sports rush. Wait a minute. It's not Saturday. I know. I had a busy day yesterday, so I couldn't get on live. It was kind of nonstop all through the day, through the night. But today we're able to make up for it because we have got a spectacular live show for you. Welcome to the Sports Rush. This is the new place to find us. This is where you subscribe to us. This is where you share the channel, you do all the buttons. Just click the buttons. They don't cost you anything. They're not like it's not like where you've got a clearance sale, buy four buttons, get a fifth free. You can click those buttons without any expense. It's just the right thing to do. When you find a channel, and if you've been listening to the radio show, this is a chance for you to keep following us, keep the show alive. We've got a lot to talk about when it comes to Fort Wayne and Indiana sports because we've got to talk about the Indiana Pacers. Winners in game one. What a comeback. We'll break it all down for you. Also, plenty of other things that we're going to be covering on the show today, including the Knicks making the decision to move on from Tom Thibodeau. And we'll get Adam's thoughts on that, a big Knicks fan. What's the deal with Anthony Richardson? Is it time for the Colts to just move on from Anthony Richardson, designate Daniel Jones as the starter of this football team? And Anthony Richardson can deal with his injuries. He can play as a backup because I think that's what he is, but we'll break that down. Also, I got to talk about my Florida Panthers. It's the Stanley Cup Finals, and I know Florida is not a local team. It's local to me, though, damn it. I'm going to talk about the Florida Panthers because they won game two. It's an even series, a game apiece. They're heading to Sunrise, Florida for game three, and we'll talk about that. We've also got the Indiana Fever, the Tin Caps coming home, and we're going to talk to the legendary coach of the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons. Not really. I'm just saying that to kind of suck up to him so that to make sure that he actually joins us this time. John Kaufman is going to join us and give us an update on what's happening. Of course, a lot of new names are going to be part of this roster. We've got to get a chance to start to meet them, and so we've got that to cover as well. So here we go on a Sunday. I don't even know how long we're going to be on here. We might be on here until it gets darker, until that game tonight starts. But one way or another, we've got a big day. And let's bring in the man, the producer, longtime producer of the Sports Rush on radio, Adam Lundy. And Adam, what a game! Game one. I know.
Man,
There are plenty of people around the country that totally gave up on the Indiana Pacers, decided this is as advertised. Oklahoma City's a better basketball team. The Pacers have no chance. It's going to be a short series, and they probably went to bed when it was 15, when it was 11 with just a few minutes left. I don't know when. I mean, it was getting late on the East Coast. And I'll be honest, I was about to give up on it too, but here we are, 1-0
uh,
Pacers lead with a remarkable comeback and a Tyrese Halliburton game winner.
how could you give up on this team? I mean, they could be down 25, and I would be ashamed on people for giving up on this Indiana Pacers team after what we've seen so far in this NBA playoffs, my man. Come on.
I got to talk about how this happened. First of all, the Pacers to even be in position of having any chance at a comeback. Now you're talking about 25 points, and they probably should have been down by 25 at halftime. They had 19 first half turnovers. I mean, 19 is an embarrassing number for an entire game. They were able to accomplish it in one half, just basically giving the ball away. It seemed like they wanted to attack space that wasn't there. And that's one thing that Oklahoma City kind of suckers you into believing that there's open space, and when you try to attack it, they close and they reach and they get their hands on balls and they take things away that look like they're there, and then all of a sudden when you go to attack it, it vanishes. It's kind of like suckering you into to an illusion. And man, the Pacers just attacked space that wasn't there. Ended up with 19 first half turnovers. They cleaned that up in the second half. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Oklahoma City also had 14 steals to the Pacers 1. And when we talk about the transition game being so important to the Pacers, you would have expected that the Pacers would need to have more than one steal because that's a lot of where they get their transition and get the pace of the game up where they like it. I never really felt like the pace of the game was a huge favor to the Pacers. It never seemed like the Pacers were able to get that long lead pass after a made bucket. They had to dribble it up the floor instead of pass it into the front court. You know, the Knicks, that's where I think the Knicks failed. And I think Oklahoma City saw that on film, decided we're not going to allow that inbound pass to Halliburton and that quick long lead pass into the front court because the Pacers did that time and time again against the Knicks and it was effective. It set up a lot of 2-on-1, 3-on-2, or just 1-on-1 drives to the basket with a mismatch. But the Pacers only had 11 fast break points. Halliburton, and it's kind of hard to criticize the guy who ultimately was the hero, but Halliburton had only 12 points and in the first half looked somewhat passive. He was not attacking like he normally does. It almost is like that old philosophy, get everybody else involved, build the confidence of your teammates. And maybe if that worked and that was the plan, great, but he just was not a big factor in the game. Second half, he started to hit a couple of big shots. He had that little teardrop floater and he had a big 3-pointer. But Halliburton only 12 points before he hit the last shot and only 6 assists. But here it is by the numbers. Here's how remarkable this comeback ended up being. They were down 15 points with 9.5 minutes left. They were down 9 with under 3 minutes left. They were down 5 with a minute and a half left. And they did not have a lead in this game for 47 minutes, 59.7 seconds.
And you know what's crazy about all that you just described is this was probably one of the less exciting comebacks in the Pacers' run throughout the playoffs. I mean, if you had to rank it, I would definitely put it behind the game one of the Knicks series. So, I mean, it's just absolutely insane. But just it's still an insane comeback, but just putting it in perspective, it just shows what an insane playoff run it's been for these Indiana Pacers.
I mean, that's the thing is you have multiple games where not only did they overcome huge deficits, but multiple games where they get to a final possession and they know exactly who they want to have the ball. They don't have to call the timeout. They don't have to they don't have to stop play. They just have to find Tyrese. And I thought that was an important part of that final play. That the ball went through two hands before somebody got it into the hands of Tyrese. You know, it was the rebound, then it was the pass to Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin turned, looked, found Tyrese in the backcourt, made sure he got the ball, and then everybody else just got out of the way. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. And in a day and age where selfishness has kind of infiltrated a lot of basketball, especially at the NBA level, it's great to see that this team values winning over being a hero. And they got the ball to the guy that gave them the best chance to win. He's done it repeatedly. I think I heard that he has hit, 12 of 14 shots in the final minute or 2 minutes of a game this year that have tied or given his team the lead. I mean, it's 12 of 14. That's a good percentage in the first quarter. Now, and we're talking about high leverage shots. I mean, that's a guy that comes up to base with men on in the ninth inning and bats 800. It just doesn't happen. And Tyrese has been unbelievable. He got to the point on the floor. He said he was looking for his spot and he was trying to get there, and he was able to get there. A couple of things about Oklahoma City's defense on that last possession. Number one, get the ball out of his right hand.
Right. Don't let him go right.
Why did they continue to let him be comfortable with the dribble moving to his right? Make him cross over, make him use his left hand. They never tried to cut him off. And then the other part, they never tried to double him. Was Oklahoma City, did they attend the scout meeting? Because somewhere in the scout meeting, it should have been part of the process that they would have talked about late game situations and how they wanted to defend it. Because Alex Caruso had a chance to come up and double and squeeze the ball out of Tyrese Halliburton's hand, or at least make that a very difficult shot. And he he backed off. He trusted Lou Dort one on one, and it wasn't going to happen. Tyrese just elevated above Dort. Dort, what is 6'3", 6'4"? Elevated above him, hit the jumper, game over, Pacers win. And now the whole world is talking about the Indiana Pacers. It is about dang time that the Pacers get some national pub and recognition because they have been doing this, Adam, since January. This is not something new. That they talk about this miraculous
Sure.
run through the playoffs. They've been winning games at a higher rate than almost anybody in the NBA, not named Oklahoma City, since January. So this matchup should not be a surprise. And the Pacers winning a game, although now I game two has got me a little bit frightened. But it should not be a surprise to anybody that the Pacers won a game in this series. They've done it against Milwaukee, again, and then on the road against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was the best in the East. They did it on the road against the New York Knicks. And what were they able to do against all three of their previous playoff opponents? Win two in a row. Can they do it in Oklahoma City tonight?
Ooh, that's going to be tough tonight. But going back to game one, I mean, you said it. I mean, at halftime, it was looking bad. It was looking bad throughout a good portion of the game. But once again, the Pacers were able to just stay within striking distance when striking distance for Indiana happens to be about 20 points. And it was just, I got to give my biggest credit of the game actually would have to go to Andrew Nembhard. He had 8 points and 4 assists or 3 assists in the fourth quarter in that huge comeback, some huge threes. He cooked Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in the fourth for a crucial three and was passing the ball around. And just credit to all the 3-point shooting in the fourth. Everybody just got it going, and it was a great comeback. But yeah, game two tonight.
And he came up with the big defensive stop
Yeah.
when SGA put on the brakes and tried that pull-up jumper. Nembhard was right there. And so I'll give credit to Nembhard because I've been critical of him, the fact that I don't think he's necessarily a defensive stopper, but the effort that he put in to trying to limit SGA, especially in that second half and down the stretch, I thought was pretty special. But here's a few notes from that rally and how the door was open. Oklahoma City missed 10 of their last 12 shots. They went cold. Did they tighten up? Rick Carlisle indicated that their game plan was to try to get it close late in the game because they felt like Oklahoma City hadn't been there nearly as often as the Pacers had been, and they might, do I dare say it, choke under pressure. Come on, give me one of these. Yeah. But they expect it because if you look at Oklahoma City, 61 wins by double digits, they didn't have to put games away late. They didn't have to have last minute or 2-minute comebacks. They were a team that built leads through the first three quarters, cruised to the finish. They were in good shape, and so they missed 10 of their last 12. Their last field goal came with 4:01 left. They had some free throws, but their last field goal with 4:01 left, while the Pacers hit 7 of their last 11 3-point shots in the fourth quarter. That was in the last 10 minutes. 7 of 11 with the game on the line. And I think like 4 different players hit them. I think Turner hit that crazy bank. You had Obi Toppin, I think, hit a 3.
Yep, he did.
Nembhard hit a 3. Halliburton hit a 3. I mean, I think there were like 4 or 5 different guys that hit 7 of 11 down the stretch. And then, of course, it all set up that 17-footer, 18-footer, 19-footer. I don't know if they've got an official measurement, but the Tyrese Halliburton winner. So some things I think are going to have to be better here in game two for the Pacers because the Pacers really stole this one because it was not the best Pacers game. The first half was terrible. The second half, I still didn't think they played at the pace they wanted to, but they scored 66 second half points. That's a good omen going into game two that they broke free after scoring 40 some in that first half. but I didn't think they got great performances from Turner and Siakam. I thought there were some very heavy mismatches in the post because Oklahoma City was trying to continue to go with that small lineup where they had 6'3", 6'4" guys trying to match up against Turner and or Siakam. And the Pacers have to take advantage of that matchup because the Pacers were best when Hartenstein was on the floor. And so what you've got to do is you've got to expose Oklahoma City when they try to go to their guard lineup and force Oklahoma City to put in Hartenstein to stop the Pacers at the basket, which then will free up the Pacers for the 3-point game and also give the Pacers a chance to run a little more because you slow Oklahoma City down. But they've got to take advantage more often with the size mismatch inside when OKC goes small. And and then I thought Rick Carlisle just won the coaching battle hands down. He showed his experience. The second half, he made the switches, moving Halliburton off the ball, putting the ball in the hands of Nemhard, letting him be the primary point guard. That was brilliant and worked wonders for the Pacers. They did a lot of things really strong down the stretch, and the best thing they did was they got the ball to Tyrese Halliburton. Now the question is, what do you do if you're Oklahoma City? Because you tried to play that little wrinkle and that little surprise by going small lineup and changing your starting five. I don't know that that worked. Ultimately, the Pacers did figure it out. Now, do you go back to your original starting five? Is Hartenstein now back in the starting lineup? Do how does Oklahoma City respond from a personnel standpoint in game two?
That'll be interesting to see. And it also is just, I think the Pacers are going to be coming in with a confidence level that's relatively high. I saw footage of after the game, a couple of the Pacers talking to each other, and they said, "Hey, that wasn't our best game. Let's get greedy. Let's take game two here in Oklahoma City." So I'm thinking they're going to be coming out confident, but you're also going to have an upset Oklahoma City team looking to get one at home, even up the series. So what I'm thinking tonight is going to be a lot of high offense in tonight's game. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring.
You would expect. All right, we've got to keep things kind of moving. We've got a
Yes,
lot to
sir.
cover. We've 1 week gives us a lot of content to break down, and I thought to me it was a surprise because I think if you're not prepared who the replacement is going to be, it's tough to replace somebody who has had the kind of success in New York that Tom Thibodeau has had. Now, I know you can point out certain things. He falls in love with his starters, he burns guys with too many minutes. You can look at all the faults, but this is a Pacers team that not only beat the Knicks, they also beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, I think the bar was set of expectations in New York City that Tom Thibodeau was almost destined to fail unless he took this team to the finals and maybe even won the championship. I think, you wear out your welcome. I don't think he's a guy that's super engaging with fans, but it seemed like a couple of the players genuinely stood up for him a little bit after the series with Indiana. And it doesn't seem like the Knicks have their guy lined up. Now, we've heard names like Jason Kidd. Of course, we already know Jay Wright has said no. But I don't know where the Knicks go from here. How surprised were you with the firing of Tom Thibodeau as the Knicks coach?
I was originally surprised a little bit just because it's coming off of, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Although it's just a little bit of the way that we also lost kind of did leave a bad taste in a lot of Knicks fans' mouth. And then as the reports started coming out, when you heard about, James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, and you hear about Leon Rose, the president of basketball operations, having joint interviews with all of the top rotation players about Thibodeau and what they thought about him. It was just a little bit more came to light about just how the overall locker room feel for Thibodeau was, and while he did have a couple players that stuck up for him, and I think that the overall locker room respected him, there was also kind of an idea that some players thought they weren't getting the most. There wasn't a maximization of talent. And so, I mean, if and we have high standards, I guess now it's kind of crazy, just thinking back a couple years ago, how awful we were. The standards are just very high now. So, and like you said, it's kind of also interesting considering we don't have a replacement already lined up, somebody in mind. But we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm just looking, and I think you can almost see my Saturday glow.
You're looking good, man.
Can you tell I got a little bit of color?
You do. Yeah, you were
That is not
outside.
my
Yeah.
stage makeup. I did not, I just want everybody to know this is actually yesterday we did the high school regionals,
Yep.
and we were actually out in the elements. And since I was facing directly to the east and it was a morning game, I had the sun right there.
Yeah. Soak
And
up some rays.
I'm thinking, the camera's kind of picking up my summer glow here.
Very nice. Very nice.
We're going to add. We're going to have more than 3% women actually tuning into this channel if I keep this glow going on. Great baseball yesterday. In case you missed it, Norwell gets a 2-1 win over the Bishop Dwenger Saints. I thought that was a little bit of a surprise, looking at the rosters and the matchups, and the fact that Lucas Collins was ready to go for Bishop Dwenger. That's a big win for Norwell. Congratulations to the Knights. And then, man, Snyder just piled it on against Homestead. And that's two good baseball teams. They played twice. They split their doubleheader during the regular season, but it was no matchup with Snyder throwing their ace and then putting an end to any thought of a rally with a diving catch by Brandon Logan out in center field where he doubles up a runner at third. That pretty much ended any hopes for a Homestead rally. They were down 5-1 at that point in the sixth inning. And then in the bottom of the sixth, Snyder added 4 insurance runs, took a 9-1 lead to the seventh, and game was over. But overall, I thought Snyder was probably the better team and deserved to win that game. And so Snyder advances. And I'll tell you this, Snyder's got a chance to make it all the way down to the state championship, because in the North you had Penn got knocked off, Crown Point got beat by Valparaiso. Now Valparaiso's still good, and I'm sure that will be an interesting matchup pitching wise between Valparaiso and Snyder. But that'll be matchup in 4A. And then Goshen knocking off Penn, which was the shocker. Goshen doesn't even have a winning record. Penn had only one loss all year long, and Goshen knocks off the Kingsmen, who I think were probably the favorites in the North. And so a big win for Goshen. They're one of the 4 teams still remaining in the North in Class 4A, and Westfield also will be part of the 4A semi-state. So it's Westfield versus Goshen. It's Snyder versus Valparaiso. Those games will be on Saturday to determine who heads to Victory Field down in Indianapolis to play for a state title. All right, so I'm watching. It does appear Coach Kaufman's going to be joining us, and I don't know when.
I'll tell you what.
Kind of jumped on early, which I thought, okay, he's in the waiting room. He's here. He's ready. He missed his last calling when he was supposed to join the show, so maybe he just wanted to be sure he could connect early.
Well, I'll tell
But
you what. I saw him walking in the background there just a second ago. He's at an
he's
undisclosed marine location, but
yeah. I think it's a day at the lake house, and he's wanting to go outside and see if the sun's come out yet. All right, so we got to talk about Anthony Richardson,
yeah,
a re-aggravation of the shoulder injury that obviously cost him pretty much a season. And here's the thing: even if he wasn't hurt, I think it's time for the Colts to give up trying to turn Anthony Richardson into something that he is not, nor will he ever be. And that's a guy with enough talent to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. You might be able to turn him into a starter, but do we really believe that Anthony Richardson can be coached to a level that will win Super Bowls in Indianapolis? I don't see it. I think the Colts need to move on from it, designate Daniel Jones as the starter, and you can use this injury as the reason why, so you don't have to admit that you had a bust in the draft a couple of years ago when you took Anthony Richardson. Designate Daniel Jones as the starting quarterback, and because he's going to get the reps coming up here in the mini camp, Anthony Richardson's not going to be participating, and so I would put an end to the charade that the Colts are believing that Anthony Richardson can be their starter, and they're just bringing in competition to push him and to try to make him a better pro. The reality is he's never going to be a good quality starting quarterback in the NFL. If you want and to get the most production out of Anthony Richardson, make him a fullback or a tight end because he is very athletic, but he is not a guy that can throw the ball accurately or consistently.
No, and I mean, and it's been that way since college, and he was a rough prospect out of college that they took a chance on with a high pick, and they thought that they could produce him into the next Lamar Jackson, and just the player production with the Colts has just not been there. It's always been a team that's usually relied more on veterans than, getting young guys into the fray and, having them learn how to become, top quality NFL players. So yeah, like I said, the production just has not come from Anthony Richardson. And, once again, it is another injury, whether it's real or not. It's another injury to his shoulder. And, they say they tried to run him less last season, but he's still a running quarterback that's going to run plays, and he's still going to have a chance of re-aggravating that.
If you cannot run him as he
Exactly.
throws up, if you cannot run him, then he's not worth even having on the roster. You did not draft him because he's the most beautiful and artistic pocket passer. You drafted him because he was a dual threat and you felt like that was the direction the NFL was going, and that was what Shane Steichen was skilled at developing, was an offense around a dual threat guy. If he cannot run the ball and you're going to tell him not to run the ball, don't even put him out there because there's plenty of guys who can't run that can throw the ball a heck of a lot better than Anthony Richardson. And so quit wasting your time trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, or is it a square peg in a round hole? It doesn't matter. Anthony Richardson is not a talented enough quarterback to be the guy in the NFL, and it's time to move on. Credit to Tennessee. Will Levis wasn't the guy either. And Tennessee is not messing around. They're moving on very quickly. And Will Levis was, to me, he was not much different than Anthony Richardson, although Anthony Richardson can maybe run the ball. But my thoughts are it's time to just designate Daniel Jones as the starter. And if Anthony Richardson can beat him out in that position in camp, great, more power to him. But let's quit the charade that we've got a battle going on and we brought in a quarterback for competition. Right now, honestly, I would not be terribly upset if they told me that Riley Leonard was going to start over Anthony Richardson. Because at least Riley Leonard, he can run the football a little bit. He's kind of nifty and shifty when he does run it. But I feel like he's a better passer than Anthony Richardson. May not have a strong arm, but I think he's more accurate. And, that's going to be one of the real keys for the Colts is the accuracy on intermediate routes, because that's where Tyler Warren, their first round draft pick, that's where he's going to excel. I don't think you're going to get Warren going 40 yards downfield, but I also don't think you have to dump off 5-yard passes. I think if you can get him 10 to 15 yards downfield and complete those type of completions, and it's going to take some accuracy because in some of those situations, it's going to be over the middle with a tight window. And I just don't know if Anthony Richardson's the guy to be throwing them to Tyler Warren. So anyway, I just think the charade, the game, it's over. Colts announced Daniel Jones. He's your starter. Anthony Richardson's going to be given every chance to compete against Daniel Jones. But instead of making it flip-flop, which is Anthony Richardson is got a competition with Daniel Jones, but Anthony Richardson seems to be the guy, let's make the guy Daniel Jones and let Anthony Richardson try to earn that spot back. That's the way I feel about it at this point, especially now that you've got the shoulder injury, which who knows if that's ever going to go away. I mean, that's a shoulder with a quarterback. That's not good.
Not good at all. And we already know from just looking at stats that Daniel Jones is more accurate of a passer than Anthony Richardson. I know that's not a high bar. So, yeah, given the injury and just everything going on, now that you do have a couple new weapons, including Tyler Warren, and why not let just Daniel Jones sling it to him 10 yards away? Why not?
All right, so got to remind everybody this is where you find the Sports Rush. I know a lot of people are disappointed we're not on the radio every day to take them home from 4 to 6, but probably content available on the YouTube channel that you could throw in, whether it's a 10 or 15-minute video, which might take care of your commute, or whether you listen to parts or portions of this live show, which of course will be posted on our YouTube page. The key is you need to subscribe. You need to click the little bell so you get alerts when we do go live with these shows, because we're trying to do them on Saturdays. This week, Saturday didn't work out. We moved it to Sunday. We can't always guarantee a time, but you want to make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Share the channel. It's easy to do. Just click the button, share it, let people know on social media, whether it's X or whether it's some other social media. Let them know that you're spending time. And I appreciate Rick, by the way. Rick has gone over and above with trying to promote this channel, and I do appreciate him a lot. But we appreciate the fact you found us. You know who else found us? Couldn't find us a couple of weeks ago when we asked him to come on the show, but he found us today.
I was gonna say our good buddy Ryan commenting on YouTube, but someone else is here too.
Yeah, I got to get him centered though, because we'll get him centered. There we go. Ah, look at that! It is the coach of the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons, Coach John Kaufman. We're taking him away from the Lake Day. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. You're right. You called me out. I missed a couple weeks ago for, I think that might have been your inaugural show.
We'll tell you it was. We'll tell you that you were invited to the inaugural show, even though we had done a couple of shows, but we were at that point, we were still kind of testing a few things.
Okay. So you bring me on once you get the wrinkles out of this thing.
That's right. We didn't want to embarrass you by our lack of professional appearance and, technical issues.
Yeah. Well, I like you wearing the Don shirt right there.
I did that for you. I put that on before the show. I thought I better put this on. There it is, right there. I better put this on for Coach Kaufman. And I'd wear a hat, but I can't talk Wolf into giving me a hat. I keep trying. I see you've got your hat. You look good in your Sunday hat. Both of you have hats on.
Yeah, hey, I already went to church this Sunday, went to Tom's Donuts, took a tour on the lake.
Awesome.
It's funny. It's like life as a college basketball coach over the last 26 years has changed dramatically. And really the really small pockets you get to get away, engage with the family, you got to take advantage of them. Literally, so we had team camp. We had 4 days in a row, Wednesday through Saturday this week. Over 100 teams from 4 different states came through the Gate Center and the Field House, and it was great basketball. And it's great recruiting for us. We've identified and signed some players out of this. It's also just great relationship building with high school coaches, in the states that kind of connect with us and in our state. And that's great for our players to just engage with the community. As you know, we have almost virtually every local team comes through the Gate Center in the summer through team camp. And so, really good there. And then we take a day off, and then 5:00 tonight, we got our camp meeting. The stress of camp meetings now is that we've gotten over, we shut it down at, I think, 260. I was hoping we get up to 300 this year. The problem is we got a couple guys that haven't reported yet, and it becomes a workforce situation. So if either of you guys want to run kids camp with us next week, we could utilize.
My restraining order won't allow me to get around kids under 12. I'm sorry, Coach.
I got you. You can say that now that you're just on YouTube, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I
Joke.
know. Everybody that's joined in probably knows. By the way, I've got a little bit of a summer glow going. Can you tell? I got some nice sun yesterday.
I thought that
I
was the
feel
makeup crew.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm telling you, because it is not makeup. I did not put like a colorizing makeup. This is my natural flow. So you mentioned two camps, and I want to bring out that during June annually, this has always been kind of what the Mastodons program has done, and they're totally different camps. One is basically high school teams coming for almost a shootout type of style where they get to play some high level competition they normally wouldn't be able to schedule during their winter months. They get a chance to see kids facing a little tougher competition than maybe they faced last year in JV ball. And that's the last 4 days. Now it's the kids camp. And the kids camp is based more on instruction, learning, and really, to me, it's one of the best benefits for both sides is the engagement you have with the program, because not often do kids get a chance to meet mentors and role models in the community. And the Mastodons have always put together a team and a program where you can be very proud of the type of guys in this program that are connecting with your younger kids.
Yeah, it's a big part of it is fan raising, and that mentoring piece that you're talking about, and it's boys and girls, kindergarten through eighth grade, and a lot of skill work. They'll play some games. We do some fun with them too. We have the dance contest, and we got the 19. We call them the 1968 winner of the Macedon basketball camp dance contest, and Coach Sims dresses up in an old man's outfit and kind of limps out there, and he MCs the contest every year. And so we have different fun with the kids. But what's awesome is the relationships that they build, and then during the course of the year when kids either come into the locker room after wins to ride the wave, or we do the autograph session, our guys remembering the names of the kids and pounding them up, and making it cool to go to Purdue Fort Wayne. I mean, I'm now going on 14 years, and it's amazing now the people in the community that are all grown up, and they're like, "Oh, Coach, man, I remember coming to camp when I was 12," and that's making me feel older, but also just cool how we get more people engaged with coming on campus. I mean, when you talk about team camp now, we had 100 teams, 15 players a team. I mean, that's a lot of fans, a lot of players that are potential students at Purdue Fort Wayne. It's great for our university as well. We got a beautiful campus, and just kind of showcasing it for future Mastodons.
Coach, college basketball and college basketball coaching completely different today than the first half of your career, and maybe even the first 2/3 of your career as a head coach here at Purdue Fort Wayne. This really, to me, was the most immersed you had to get when it came to the transfer portal. Not only losing some guys to the portal, but having to then fill multiple roster spots because of that. How has the challenges, how have they changed? We've seen a couple of older coaches that have retired. There's speculation that the game is so different now, the way that money impacts it, the way the portal impacts it. How much different is your job?
Well, I mean, let me start out with you. You said the most, the biggest change probably in my tenure, and I look back on 2 years ago when we graduated. Jared, Damian, Bobby, that crew, Deontay, Ra, and we had to replace 5 starters. That was the first time in my career that we hadn't had an all league player coming back, and 5 starters, 4 with 1,000-point scores. One was the all-time leading scorer at almost 2,200 points. Like that was the first time of that real stress of, we got roster turnover. And then we had some guys like Quentin Morton Robertson step up from within, our roster. We had a freshman in CJ come and produce early in his career, and then we had big time transfers with Jalen and Sheed and Max step up, and we win 23 games. Our opening night we beat DePaul, a Big East opponent. So as stressful as some of the changes are, as you're like, man, this is unknown territory. We had a little bit of a jump start with it 2 years ago. The things that we still value, we valued 2 years ago, we still really value. Gym rats, guys that are unselfish, guys that can really pass the basketball, guys that can really shoot the basketball. And, my chancellor, my athletic director, they've shown a lot of confidence in me with long-term contracts. So I don't have to take a player, just to win a game. And so we've been able to recruit guys that I think, are still going to represent our school and our city really well, and play the style of basketball that Fort Wayne is used to, that's accustomed to us playing. What's really impacted the recruiting piece too is, and I think my tenure and time here and the longevity of my staff. I mean, Sims has been with me for 15 years, Blaylock 8, Wolf 7. We have these decade stats, which is like generation after generation, and all these uncertainties as you're recruiting, to be able to tell, a young man who's whether it's, coming in as a freshman, how he's going to fit, or it's a transfer with 1 year, 2 years, and, they're trying to finish their career or get a jump start in their career. And to be able to say, hey, we're number 14 in scoring over the last decade, number 2 in 3-point field goals made over the last decade, number 7 in 3-point field goal percentage over the last decade, we're the winningest mid-major program in the state of Indiana over the last decade. So it's like, past success is the best indicator for future success. That's really helped us recruiting. Now, we get into 3-4 years of this, and I got to recruit 10 new guys every year. I might start having a receding hairline and a little bit more gray than I have right now. But, man, we had a great spring. Brought in really good young men, excited about them, and some guys that have already produced at our level. And then, like Rashid at the Division II level, and really excited to see what they're going to do, in Don's uniforms.
Well, let's talk about some of those players, because where high school recruiting is kind of the the courting of a potential suitor. I mean, it's, you build relationships over the course of time, where this transfer portal recruiting and trying to recruit the guys out of the portal, it's like speed dating. I mean, you have 1 or 2 opportunities to really make an impression and earn your spot high on their list. It's a different style, isn't it?
It is. It is. I mean, it's a speed dating part of it where, the key to that is that you get it right. And that's where you got to be, very intentional with the questions that you're asking, giving them the information, and really being careful not to oversell. And that's what I've found, now having been here 11 years, is that the best players that we've had have been the ones that buy into what I'm selling. And, we're not just catering and telling them what they want to hear. We're telling them what we do, what's important to us. We're very intentional with that. And then finding the guys that are the right fit. And so, as we go through the course of that, I mean, I'll give you a little bit of I know Tracy was telling somebody, we were at a fundraiser, a couple of days ago, a week ago, whatever. And she's telling somebody, yeah, I was logging it. John had a player on campus. How many days are in April? Is it 28 in April?
30.
30 in April.
Yep.
So 30 days. She said like 26 days in April, we had a player on campus. And so oftentimes, we're taking one to the airport and we're picking one back up. They got used to me, hanging outside the bellhop at the Bradley, got used to it. I mean, we were sitting there, shooting the breeze about the different recruits coming in, got to know me. I'd be like, hey, man, you've worked almost 48 straight hours, seems like. He goes, how do you know? He goes, because I've been hanging out in this lobby in and out of here. But, as you do that, what was really kind of wild is oftentimes you'd have a recruit on campus, and then, you're diving in that night because you get onto somebody else that just entered the portal or the next recruit, and you're watching video of those guys on Synergy and logging in like at 11 o'clock, like that night. as you're trying to figure out, okay, how do we do this? And then as you go through and you're looking at what your collective has and you're making your offers and you get down to your last one or two and you're trying to piecemeal it. It's not like the old days where you just had two scholarships left, but it's like, okay, we got to now look at salary caps and how do I, not a salary cap, but we do, and what you got left and how, where you're going to keep your money on the floor. And the positive we really got those, we got 5 tremendous young men coming back. We're the only program in the league that has 2 of their top 6 coming back. And you have Max, who started, CJ, who was runner-up 6th man of the year, runner-up rookie of the year before, like, who's back. He looks great. Both those guys look great. Like, we have, and then you got Chris Morgan and D'Lo, who've been in the program, 3-4 years, just had some injuries that impacted them. And when you get caught with some really good players in front of it, it's their time to produce and show out. And I'm excited about them. Those guys are going to take huge steps this year.
Kind of a balance between incoming freshmen and the transfers, but I think most people feel like the more immediate impact and the attention goes to who'd you get out of the transfer portal. And you kind of, I guess my best way to describe this is you got guys that are not only productive, but it's a great balance with a point guard, a shooting guard, a versatile big, a guy that can play inside, outside, in Kaba, and then a guy who can bang around the basket, maybe help you on the glass, and Darius Duffy. How do you describe this incoming unit, and give me some specifics on some of these guys?
Well, when you look at the transfer portal, we got kind of a little bit of everything. Now we like guard play and we like point guards and combos. That's where we've been able to create a ton of mismatches, and then we like that fourth guard. Where we can, we can maybe go small or just play with 4 skill guys. We're obsessed with that. And that's where, Ibrahim Kaba, was very impactful and cool situation there, relationship there. His agent is John Conchar's agent. And that's kind of cool. We kind of, just like you used to have AAU coaches and high school coaches only, now you got different relationships that you're building and trying to be impactful, and guys that, you've influenced that, hey, this is a great fit in other ways. And, obviously John was a great showcase for that, but, he's got great. He's 6'9". Ironically, I don't know, 2 dozen Power 4, Power 5 offers, ends up choosing to go to St. Bonaventure, which is in the Atlantic 10, just outside the Power 4, to play right away. And, what's crazy is then they brought in grad transfers. And so he ends up redshirting last year. And so for us, he's a player that, was recruited really at a high level out of high school, saved his year with the red shirt, wants to impact the floor and with compete for major minutes. And so, coming to the Horizon League was a great spot for him. And, his agent knows our style of play, and his brother's a college coach as well. So it's really cool. He's going to be a good player, can shoot the ball, can deck it. And really, I think it's going to end up being a 3, 4, 5.
I heard, Coach, when you're talking about Kaba, I gotta intercept this, because I heard when he came to town, you had this whole schedule planned out. And I believe you took him bowling. He was so impressed by the bowling that you took him to that he was ready to commit to the program after the first hour or so he was in town. Is that right?
It's funny how these stories get all steered. Like, I'll have a recruit call Conchar and tell him about how he gained 42 pounds of muscle in year 1 and how great our player development plan is. And he'll be like, I don't listen to coach. I just ate Panda Express 3 times a day. You're stealing my thunder as well right there. I thought it was because my great sales pitch and, all the winning and the player development we've done. And now you're saying it's duck pin bowling at the Fairfield down by Parkview Stadium, which, by the way, man, thumbs up to those guys. Like, that's been a huge addition to our recruiting, going upstairs and hitting the golf simulator and then going down to the duck pin bowling. I don't know if you two have gone. Maybe we'll get those guys as sponsors.
No, I've actually been trying to arrange it with Nate over there to get a chance to go in and experience some of the fun downtown. It's still kind of new to me.
And
I'm probably
Nate
not.
played now. Nate played college basketball in California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's two Nates, so I may be talking about the other one, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll talk to both of them. I'm fine
okay,
with that.
been very helpful with us. But no,
Uh,
it's great. That was a great commitment. And then we'll talk Darius Duffy. First time we've taken a transfer from within the league. That's a little challenging. You build these big rivalries within the league. And we've had a great one with Milwaukee. But and he wore I think he wore a Milwaukee. It didn't say, it said like Cream City, so it didn't say actually Milwaukee Panthers on the visit. I didn't have to make him do push-ups like I do to anybody who wears other people's gear in our locker room, but really fits in to how we play. Shot 8% from the floor, we unfortunately lost Eric this last year, who led the country in field goal percentage, but Darius Duffy shot 8%, which is actually higher than what Eric did, just on a little bit lower volume. He's going to fit really well there. Tremendous rim protector, really, really physical. They're about 3 days into their summer training, so I sat back before team camp, watched some of their skill sessions, kind of introducing some of our concepts to the transfers, and that was really cool watching him work out. But really good player. And then we kind of transitioned to some of the transfer guards. DeAndre Craig, who is a double-digit scorer at Denver, brought in an old Summit League rival Denver player, but he's from Chicago. Played for an AAU program that we're very familiar with. Great relationships there, and he was a guy that filled up the stat sheet in the Summit League. Values the things we value. I project being another really good point guard in sort of a generation after generation of really good guards. I think we've had 7 straight point guards sign pro contracts. So he's going to be a really good player, can shoot it as well as creates. And then you're looking at a local product, which was a cool story from Southside here in Fort Wayne. Mikhail Stevenson, went to Grambling, and he has a year left, and we were looking for an older, experienced guard, and again a guy that took Grambling to the tournament, was an impactful player on that team 2 years ago. This year averaged like 10, 4, and 4. I think another great fit for what we do. Elite passer, elite defender, high steal rate, rebounds really well. We like guards that impact the stat sheets in a lot of different ways. And so, those transfers, I think are going to play significant roles in this year's group. But
what about Ja'Cory Lipkins?
I know. And then Ja'Cory Lipkins, who was our first signee this spring, who can really shoot it. And like Anthony Roberts, like Rashid Bello, a D2 product, that was freshman of the year at Charleston over in West Virginia. He's from Ohio, from Canton, Ohio. Can really, really score the basketball. Strong player. We did our testing the other day. He did a vertical over 40 inches. Look what we got behind us. We got a clown back here.
I may need, he might have to jump in and give me a prediction on tonight's game so we can have that on record.
Yeah, we could do that. All right, I think he's out there doing a little bass fishing behind us too. That'd be great to catch a fish behind the scene live.
If he catches one, he's got to hold it up at the window.
Live sports for you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, those guys, and then, not necessarily a transfer, and we'll get to see, how impactful your newsreel is. Don't tweet it out. Let's just see what this YouTube link as we release, but haven't really released Yuval yet, but Yuval Levin, who's well, he's not a transfer, but he's, he played Israel First Division last year. He played on the under 20 Israeli national team with Danny Wolf, with Ron Zipper, who's going to LSU. Omar Mader, who's going to Purdue, plays in that first division with him. Going to be a little older, 21-year-old freshman academically. We'll work through what that looks like with his eligibility as we progress. But another one that John's agent, helped connect us with. And now he's a 6'9", kind of like, Swiss Army knife, 3'4", can really shoot it.
Kind
Really,
of that typical European style ball player, isn't he? I mean, a guy that comes with size but has that skill set you see with a lot of the European players.
yeah, no doubt. And you're seeing a lot more Europeans come over this year. And come just because that first contract, after they play kind of the youth development league, they can do a little bit better over here in the States, or potentially better in year 3, 4. And so you're going to see a huge influx of players in Europe. And I think we're making just like you're making my head spin with college basketball, the international coaches and the club coaches, I think we're making their head spin too, because they're losing a lot of players too, which makes college basketball, really old. I mean, he's coming in as a freshman academically at age 21, and good player. But, hey, I'm not going to knock the freshmen we got. And those freshmen just reported yesterday and today. Saw Quentin Morgan, our 6'9" freshman from Richmond, roll through team camp yesterday with his parents. Excited to get started developing with him. And EJ Mosley out of Chicago, who I'll put up against any point guard in the state of Illinois or definitely in the city. Elite get for us, really good player. Jaden Arnold out of Cincinnati. And then you're looking at who I know I got some more.
Jaden Arnold.
Yep, and then Jaden Arnold out of Cincinnati, point guard,
and the Kelly kid from Lures coming in as I believe a walk on.
Yep, and then Solomon from Leo as well. So some good impactful players in that freshman class as well. But what's awesome is what's really changed too is the summers. You see me up at the lake. I mean, I'm gonna be at the lake for less than 24 hours. With my 5 o'clock meeting tonight. But it's short getaways because really next weekend's Father's Day weekend, and then other than July 4th, we're recruiting every other weekend. This entire year between the high school open periods in June and then the July evaluation periods. And so, our staff is recruiting on the weekends, out traveling the country, chasing the next player. But then also during the week, we're developing these guys. We had 3 workouts, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This last week, we got camp starting out, and then we'll have our first practice of the summer on tomorrow night, Monday night, after we get done with team camp. And so really teaching these guys concepts in our language. They got our private YouTube link with our basketball glossary, attaching the power words with our video stuff. And so, it's going to be speed dating this summer to see who can pick up on our stuff quickest.
All right, Coach. Appreciate the time as always. We'll let you get back to the lake. And is Tommy still out there bass fishing?
You know what? It's okay. We can go a little bit longer. They got me on the lawnmower. All right, we're opening everything up this weekend before Father's Day.
Wait, you've got to do the lawn mowing. You have this one little moment of peace and tranquility, and they're making you mow the lawn.
Well,
I do need to talk to Tommy.
It's in lieu of Tracy walking me this morning. All those, I gained 5 pounds through all those official visits this spring, going to the Marquee and Proximo, Bakersfield, all these places. Like, they got to work it off me. And listen, we don't have the mower, that has the gas or anything. We got the old school, and you'll recognize this, and
you're talking about the little wheel that goes around.
Oh, it's got the blade that rotates on it.
Oh man!
All right, old man. You better get out there and cut some grass. We do have to move on, but you go cut the grass. Take care of that, and we'll touch base soon, because I do want to talk to you at some point here before too long about the House settlement and how that's going to impact college sports at all levels when we get a chance. But appreciate you jumping on with us, and have a great Sunday.
Thanks, Statman. Thanks, Adam. See you guys.
See you guys.
Hey, Coach.
Yep, that is Coach John Kaufman, who is joining us from the Lake House at a destination unknown.
Yes.
Well, and I only say it's unknown, not because there's a big privacy matter. He's given out his home address plenty of times. It's unknown because he will not let me know where it's at, so I don't show up.
Can't come crash the lake party.
Tell me, I'm a big bass fisherman.
I didn't know that. I did not know you
Oh,
were big on fishing.
I have spent so much time. Well, when I go to Florida, I'm always hitting the lakes and the ponds down there.
I thought you were hitting
Uh,
the casino.
I do that too. But yeah, some bass fishing and some poker. That
There
pretty
you
much
go.
occupies a lot of my time when I'm down in Florida.
That sounds like the average Florida experience, I think.
Yeah, it makes for a good week. All right. So last night the Fever went to Chicago, and
Woo.
I was surprised as many people showed up as actually did show up. I guess they figured they paid $1,000 for the ticket. They better use it.
No kidding.
But no contest. Fever destroy Chicago. I'll beat them by almost 30 points. It was never much in doubt. Angel Reese with a whopping 4 points on 2 of 7 shooting, and again, all of the shots pretty much right at the basket. It it it's getting embarrassing. I don't know if you happen to see the big thing now in the WNBA is everybody shooting videos of the players arriving like they're coming down the red carpet, right?
Yeah, it's a fashion show,
It's
but
all about
pregame.
the fashion. And of course, Angel Reese just completely ate that up, gave multiple poses, even told people to take extra pictures as she posed, and then went on the court and had all of 4 points on 2 of 7 shooting. But that was a pretty impressive performance by the Fever, playing without Sophie Cunningham, without Caitlin Clark, and without Stephanie White, who, by the way, Lisa Salters and Stephanie White and Lisa Salters are a couple. Lisa Salters is not going to be at the WNBA game or the NBA Finals game tonight because she is tending to a personal matter, which we assume is the same matter that Stephanie White is dealing with. So you've got two high profile women that have high profile jobs that are both having to step away. So whatever that is, we hope it works out for the best for both of them. But yeah, the Vanessa Richardson is going to be filling in on radio, and Sedano is going to jump from radio as the sideline reporter for the TV tonight. But yeah, the Fever, they pick up a big win last night. All right, we've got to talk. I let you talk about the Knicks, Adam. We got into Tom Thibodeau talk.
Yeah.
Now I got to talk about the Florida Panthers.
Woo! How about it,
I
man?
didn't
What a
last
series.
all of 2 overtimes. I didn't get a chance to see the final moment live, but fortunately, it was a very short nap. I dozed off watching the game on the couch, and then about 25 minutes later, I woke up and it was the post-game show. And I think I told you this. 11 minutes I'm sitting there watching this post-game show. They're going through the highlights. And so I don't know who won the game. And unfortunately, because it was a 2 overtime game, there were plenty of highlights that they were covering. And so it's 11 minutes of, here's the first period. Then they put up the graphic, second period. And you see the guy go in and the goalie make a great save. And then someone comes in and scores. And they're going play by play. And all 4 analysts are talking. And it is taking forever. And all I'm sitting there thinking, okay, my phone isn't sitting right here. And I keep thinking they're going to show me the score. I don't want to miss it. And it took like 11 minutes before I found out that the Panthers actually had won the game on Marchand's goal in the second overtime. Panthers, that was huge because to me, that was the game that was going to decide the series. I didn't think Florida could overcome being down 2-0, and I didn't think that Edmonton would win the series if they lost one of the first 2 games at home. I think the Panthers are going to win. I talked about the Panthers in 6. It still could go 7. To me, home ice doesn't matter to this Florida Panthers team. I've said this before, they were very content having not having home ice advantage in the first couple of rounds of the playoffs, and I don't think it matters. I mean, to them, it's just going out and executing your hockey game, and they've got a veteran squad that's been there, done that. And I think they're in prime position to go back to back. After what I saw, it's still the same Edmonton team that Florida beat last year. It is Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. And if those two guys have good nights, Edmonton's got a chance to beat you. And if they don't, they've got no chance. That's the way I see it. Panthers 1-1 with Edmonton. Game 3 in the Stanley Cup Finals comes up on Monday night.
It's about all you could ask for in a Stanley Cup Finals so far. I mean, you get an overtime game in Game 1, and then you get a series evening double overtime game in Game 2. I mean, it's been fantastic so far. I'm looking forward to Game 3.
All right. Tin Caps will be home this week, starting on Tuesday night at Parkview Field.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody fills the ballpark. Usually you get to June, and that June and July are the two big months for Tin Caps baseball. And they should be big crowds. Get your tickets. You know how to do that. Come see the Tin Caps. They play South Bend again, so it should be a lot of fun. In fact, South Bend's got a local product, Braden Reisdorf. He was drafted by the Cubs a year ago, and Reisdorf has made it quickly, accelerated quickly through the organization, and he's putting up some very impressive numbers. He's going to be pitching, I think, this afternoon for South Bend. He's primarily pitching Thursdays and Sundays right now. He's got kind of a preset throwing schedule with the South Bend Cubs, but he's a guy out of East Noble, local guy. So it'll be great to have that, a local player come back next week with the South Bend Cubs. All right, I've got to talk about this because it came up yesterday in the game we were doing. And Ryan, my great buddy and our buddy up in LaGrange, he tried to give me a debate on this. And I'm sorry, Ryan. You've got a lot of great insights, great information, but you've got an awful take when it comes to the third strike rule in baseball. And what I'm talking about is when the batter swings at a pitch that is so far out of the strike zone that the catcher can't even catch it. And the batter gets rewarded by being allowed to run to first base after embarrassing themselves. That's like, to me, this would be the equivalent of the rule in basketball, Adam, that a shooter airballs a free throw and they get the ball back to try again. I mean, it's kind of like, why do we give the batter who just struck out swinging at a pitch that was completely uncatchable, and yet we say that's okay because if the catcher misses it, we're going to let you run to first base and still get on first like you had a base hit? The rule makes zero sense to me. I think the original thought when this rule probably became part of the game was, if it was a strike and the batter missed it, we're going to make sure catchers can catch the ball. In other words, if a pitcher is going to throw a curve and your catcher can't catch curveballs, well, we'll let the batter run when if the catcher can't catch a curveball. But what it is now is basically rewarding a guy at the plate who swings at a pitch that is completely unhittable. And I'm like, why are we penalizing pitchers for throwing a pitch that was so tempting that they got a batter to swing at it and your catcher couldn't catch it? Therefore, you've got a guy on base now as a pitcher that you've got to deal with. I hate the rule. I'm a former pitcher, and if I throw a breaking ball in the dirt, that might be my out pitch. And I know that the batter is it's only going to be a strike if I can entice the batter to swing at it. But then the fact that I got to trust my catcher is going to block it, keep it in front of them, and be able to tag or throw the runner out at first. And then it's only a part-time rule. It's not even a full-time rule. It's only part-time because first base can't be occupied. And so when they put somebody at first, it doesn't matter. You can throw it all the way to the backstop. It doesn't matter. You're out now because you got a teammate at first, so we're not going to let you run this time. Come on. That's a terrible rule.
I know it hurts you as a former pitcher. You don't like to see it.
What's the benefit? What's the point of it?
Well, I mean, it's like, I know you're viewing it as penalizing the pitcher, but it's more penalizing the catcher for not stopping the ball, right?
Okay, but the point is, if it was so bad to catcher, because today's catchers loaded with gear, good catchers. I mean, if a ball hits the dirt, it's automatically a wild pitch. So you're already saying the catcher shouldn't catch anything that hits the dirt,
Mm.
right? Because you're saying that's a wild pitch. When I'm a pitcher and the pitcher in the game today, because hitters are so skilled, you're going to throw pitches that intentionally hit the dirt. Now, I'm not trying to throw a wild pitch. I'm trying to throw a pitch that will be a strike because they'll swing at it and get it tempting enough that it like I might have set it up with a low fastball, and then I'm going to throw the low slider that starts at the same trajectory, the tunneling they call it, starts at that same trajectory and then breaks right down into the dirt, and that's a good pitch. That's execution. That's getting the job done as a pitcher. But if my catcher happens to miss it, now you're going to let the batter who suckered into swinging at it be rewarded. Why should batters be rewarded for swinging at pitches that are not strikes?
I don't know, but all I know is you better have a good catcher back there behind the plate, my man.
No, they need to just, I think they forget. The competition committee must completely forget to add this to the discussion of rule changes that need to apply to baseball.
Just because of how mad you get every time it happens, I love it. So
I
I'm going to
do.
vote
I
for them
throw it out there every time I happen. I say that's the dumbest rule in baseball.
and I get a kick out of it. So I hope they never change it.
You've heard me say it 3 or 4 times this year.
At least.
Yeah. And he swings and misses a strike 3, and oh, it's the dumbest rule in
That is dumb
baseball.
and
Here he
rude
goes.
baseball.
He's running to first, and he's going to make it. No, I hate it. I think it's a ridiculous rule. All right, so big week ahead tonight. Pacers, Oklahoma City. I'll be honest, I can't take the Pacers to win 2 in OKC. OKC had the best home record this year. Them and Cleveland had the 2 best records on their home court. The Pacers did it dramatically in game 1. Oklahoma City, as a rule, has bounced back well. They only lost back-to-back games twice this year. Once was in April when they pretty much had everything locked up. So the last time they lost back-to-back before that was in November. They don't lose back-to-back, especially back-to-back home games. I think Oklahoma City wins. My gut is telling me it's going to be 15, 16 points. But because I think it's going to be a game that's very similar to what happened in game 1, but the Pacers aren't going to have the comeback this time. Oklahoma City's been kind of alerted that this team can come back on you. You better keep the foot on the gas. I'm going to go 130, 118 OKC.
Yeah, OKC does have to play better, though, than they did play in game 1. What they can't do is come into game 2 tonight thinking, oh, we were leading for the majority of the game. We were the better team for blah, blah, blah of the game. All we have to do is continue playing the same way and we'll be okay, because then we saw that happen to the Knicks. They thought, oh, we were the better team for the majority of the game. We'll be okay in game 2, and they weren't okay. So as long as that doesn't happen and OKC does play better in game 2, then I'm going to agree that they do take the game. I'm going to say 127, 120.
We're both kind of in the same neighborhood, except if you're playing the betting line, we have different sides.
Yep,
I think OKC can cover. I wouldn't take the bet, though. That 10.5 is too difficult, I think, because I think that's pretty close to where it ends up. Because if you take our average, we're at about 10 points, right?
Right, yeah.
I don't think you want to. I think what you want to do is just play the money line. If you think OKC is going to win, you think the Pacers is going to win. I don't know what Mr. Vegas is going to take on this one, but I don't know if I would touch 10.5 is a big margin, but it's very possible in this game. That's normally I would say take the points. 10.5 is a mountain in the NBA, but in this case, I don't know. I think you got to feel like OKC probably has a 10 or 11 point advantage because they're going to play better. They're going to fix things that didn't go right. And if the Pacers win this game, then
Look at it.
You've got to believe that the Pacers are going to win this series because
Yeah.
Oklahoma City would have to win 4 or 5, and I don't see that happening with three of those 5 games in Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Whew. We'll see, man. It's going to be a fun one tonight in OKC.
They set it up. They've got their chance. They
Yep.
could go all 4 postseason series, winning the first 2 games, and do it 3 times on the road. Unbelievable.
We heard him say it. Get greedy tonight. Go for it.
All right. Well, that will do it. Big thanks to Coach Kaufman for jumping on and joining us and taking time out of his lake day. It looks like the sun's out now. And don't forget, before you leave us, to subscribe. That's very important. We want subscribers. We want to be able to provide content that you will be able to easily access. And it does not cost anything to be a subscriber to the channel. It is just simply you, out of the kindness of your heart, saying, you know what, he asked me to do this, I'll go ahead and do this. That's it. I mean, you don't get it bombarded with some kind of solicitation or marketing information or emails or text. Nothing. All we do is we get a subscriber added to our total. And if you could be that person, we would certainly appreciate it. Also, share the channel to bring some of your friends on board. If you're a sports fan for Fort Wayne, Northeast Indiana, or the state of Indiana, we'd love to have you as one of our subscribers. All right, Adam, have a great week. Thanks for your time.
See ya.
And we'll talk to you again soon.